The soles of Tamara Washington's feet screamed with every step across the marble floor of Bellevue's most expensive restaurant. She'd been standing for 14 hours straight, moving between her morning shift at the diner, her afternoon shift at the grocery store, and now her evening shift at Marquis. The elegant dining room blurred slightly as exhaustion pulled at her eyelids. Her bright red uniform dress, required for all servers at Marquis, felt too tight after skipping lunch again to save money. She needed exactly $3,478 more. That's what the hospital billing department had told her this morning. $3,478 or her mother would be discharged from the cancer treatment center, sent home to die because Tamara couldn't afford the next round of chemotherapy. The number burned in her mind like a brand. She'd done the math 17 times on her break. At her current rate, working 3 jobs, sleeping 4 hours a night, she'd have the money in 6 weeks. Her mother's doctor said she had maybe 4. The lunch rush had ended an hour ago, and the dinner service wouldn't start for another 30 minutes. Tamara's manager had finally told her to take her 15-minute break. Her whole body ached. The small table in the back corner looked empty, the white tablecloth pristine, the chairs pushed in neatly. She didn't see the small reserved placard because it had fallen behind the crystal vase of white roses. Tamara collapsed into the chair, relief flooding through her legs as the weight came off her swollen feet. She pulled out her phone to check for messages from the hospital, praying there wouldn't be another bill, another crisis, another impossible demand for money she didn't have. Her dark brown eyes, usually bright and hopeful, looked dull with worry in the phone's reflection. Her natural curls, pulled back in a neat bun as required by the restaurant, had started to frizz from the heat of the kitchen. "Excuse me, but I believe you're in my seat." The voice was deep, calm, and came from just beside her. Tamara's head snapped up, an apology already forming on her lips. But the words died when she saw him. Harrison Bennett sat in a wheelchair, his hands resting on the armrests with casual grace. He wore a deep blue suit that probably cost more than Tamara made in 3 months. His dark hair was styled perfectly, and his green eyes studied her with curiosity rather than anger. He was handsome in that way wealthy men often were, polished and put together, but there was something else in his expression. Loneliness maybe. Or sadness buried deep. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Tamara scrambled to stand, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I didn't see the sign. I was just taking my break and—" "Please sit." Harrison wheeled himself closer to the table. "You look exhausted. When did you last eat?" The question caught her off guard. She couldn't remember anyone asking her that in months. This morning. I think. Maybe yesterday morning." Harrison's expression shifted, something gentler moving across his features. "Then stay. I'm waiting for someone but she's late. You can keep me company until she arrives." "I really shouldn't. My manager will." "I own 20% of this restaurant," Harrison said simply. "You won't get in trouble. Sit. Please." Tamara sat, too tired to argue. A waiter appeared immediately, placing a basket of bread on the table without being asked. Harrison gestured for her to take some. She hesitated, then reached for a roll, her stomach growling loudly enough that they both heard it. Heat rushed to her cheeks. "I'm Harrison," he said, watching her butter the bread with shaking hands. "And you're clearly having a terrible day." "Tamara." She took a bite, closing her eyes at the taste. Fresh bread felt like the most wonderful thing in the world. "And you have no idea." "Tell me." And somehow she did. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the kindness in his eyes. But Tamara found herself talking about her mother's cancer, the mounting bills, the 3 jobs that still weren't enough. She told him about being 26 years old and feeling like she was drowning, about loving her mother so much it physically hurt, about lying awake at night doing math that never added up right. Harrison listened without interrupting, his green eyes never leaving her face. When she finally stopped talking, embarrassed by how much she'd revealed to a stranger, he was quiet for a long moment. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "That's an impossible situation. You're a good daughter." "I'm a desperate daughter," Tamara corrected, finishing her second roll. "There's a difference." "I don't think so." Before Harrison could say more, a woman appeared at their table. She was tall, blonde, wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than Tamara's rent. Her blue eyes moved from Harrison to Tamara, and her perfectly painted lips pressed into a thin line. "Harrison," she said coldly, "I didn't realize your blind date was already here." Harrison looked confused. "Rebecca? I'm sorry this is—" But Rebecca had already turned on her expensive heels and walked away, her posture radiating anger. Harrison stared after her, then looked back at Tamara with something like amusement in his eyes. "Well," he said. "That was my blind date. My sister set it up. I wasn't particularly interested anyway." "Oh no." Tamara stood quickly. "I ruined your date. I'm so sorry. I should never have sat here." "You didn't ruin anything." Harrison reached out, his hand hovering near hers but not quite touching. "You made my evening better, actually. Rebecca and I would have had nothing to talk about. But you're real. You're honest. That's rare in my world." Tamara felt tears prick her eyes. She was too tired, too worried, too overwhelmed to handle kindness from strangers. "I need to get back to work." "Wait." Harrison pulled a card from his jacket pocket. "Take this, please. If you need help, if there's anything I can do." "I can't," Tamara said automatically, even as her fingers itched to take the card. "I don't take charity." "It's not charity. It's one human being helping another." He placed the card on the table between them. "Think about it. Your mother needs you alive and healthy, not worked to death." Tamara looked at the card. Harrison Bennett, CEO, Bennett Industries. A phone number in small print at the bottom. She picked it up slowly, tucking it into her pocket even though she told herself she'd never use it. "Thank you," she whispered. "For listening. For the bread. For being kind. Thank you for the best conversation I've had in months." Tamara walked away, feeling his eyes on her back. She didn't look back, afraid of what she might see or worse, what she might hope for. But the card felt warm in her pocket, like a promise she didn't dare believe in. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. She took orders, delivered food, smiled at customers who didn't see her. But her mind kept returning to the man in the wheelchair, to the way he'd listened like her words mattered, to the kindness in his green eyes. When she finally left the restaurant at midnight, her feet aching worse than ever, she pulled out Harrison's card. The streetlight above illuminated the embossed letters. Bennett Industries. She'd heard of them, everyone had. They owned half the city, or at least it seemed like it. Could you really accept help from a stranger, even when your mother's life hangs in the balance? Would you have taken that card? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming stories that remind us kindness still exists in this world. Tamara tucked the card back into her pocket and started the long walk to the bus stop, not knowing that her life had just changed forever. Tamara woke to her phone ringing at 7 in the morning, after only 4 hours of sleep. She grabbed it blindly, her heart racing. Calls this early were never good news. "Hello? Miss Washington? This is Catherine from Bennett Industries. Mr. Bennett would like to meet with you this morning at 10 o'clock if you're available." Tamara sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. Her small studio apartment felt even smaller in the morning light, the walls pressing in. I'm working at 10. At the diner. Mr. Bennett has already spoken with your manager there. You've been given the morning off with pay. A car will pick you up at 9:30. The line went dead before Tamara could respond. She stared at her phone, trying to make sense of what just happened. Harrison Bennett had tracked her down. Had called her job. Was sending a car. She should have been angry at the presumption. Instead, she felt something else. Hope, maybe. Or curiosity. She'd been raised to be suspicious of wealthy people bearing gifts. Her mother had taught her that much. But there had been something genuine in Harrison's eyes last night, something that made her want to trust him. Tamara showered quickly, then stood in front of her tiny closet trying to figure out what to wear to meet a billionaire. She settled on her nicest dress, a simple green cotton one that she usually saved for church. It was clean and modest, even if it was 3 years old and slightly faded. The car that arrived at 9:30 was sleek and black, the kind of vehicle Tamara had only seen in movies. The driver, an older man with kind eyes, opened the door for her without a word. The interior smelled like leather and money. They drove through parts of the city Tamara rarely saw, where the buildings got taller and shinier, where people walked with purpose and expensive coffee cups. Bennett Industries occupied the top 15 floors of a glass tower that seemed to touch the clouds. Catherine met her in the lobby, a professional woman in her 40s with a warm smile. "Miss Washington, so glad you could make it. Mr. Bennett is waiting in his office." The elevator ride up felt endless. Tamara's reflection stared back at her from the mirrored walls, a tired young woman who looked out of place in this world of marble and glass. But she lifted her chin. She had nothing to be ashamed of. Hard work was honorable no matter what job you did. Harrison's office took up half of the top floor. Windows on 3 sides showed the city spread out below like a toy set. He sat behind an enormous desk in his wheelchair, papers spread in front of him. When he saw her, his face lit up. "Tamara. Thank you for coming. Did I have a choice? The words came out sharper than she intended. Yes, Harrison said simply. You always have a choice. That's important to me. Please sit. Tamara lowered herself into the chair across from him, her hands folded in her lap. Why am I here? Because I spent half the night thinking about your situation, Harrison said. He wheeled himself around the desk, closer to her. And I have a proposal. I already told you I don't take charity. Good. Because I'm not offering it. Harrison leaned forward slightly. I need a personal assistant. Someone organized, hardworking, honest. Someone who isn't afraid to tell me the truth. My last 3 assistants quit because they couldn't handle the hours or the work. But I watched you last night. You're a fighter. You don't give up. Tamara's heart started beating faster. I don't have experience as an assistant. I serve food and stock shelves. You manage 3 jobs, remember schedules for dozens of customers, and handle stress that would break most people. That's exactly what I need. Harrison pulled a folder from his desk and handed it to her. This is the position description and the salary. Tamara opened the folder. Her eyes went to the number at the bottom. She read it 3 times, certain she was seeing it wrong. This is more than I make in a year at all 3 jobs combined. It's the standard rate for executive assistants at my level. In a month. Her voice came out as a whisper. Yes. The number swam in front of her eyes. With that salary she could pay for her mother's treatment in full. Could get her into better hospitals. Could stop working herself to death. It felt too good to be true, which meant it probably was. What do you really want? Tamara asked, looking up at him. Men don't just hand out jobs like this to waitresses they met once. Harrison met her gaze steadily. I want someone I can trust. Someone who sees me as a person, not a bank account or a charity case. You talked to me last night like I was normal. Do you know how rare that is? Most people either pity me because of the wheelchair or suck up to me because of the money. You did neither. I didn't know who you were. Exactly. Harrison smiled slightly. You were honest? Real. That's worth more than any resume. Tamara looked down at the folder again. The job description was long, detailed. She'd be working closely with Harrison, managing his schedule, attending meetings, helping with personal tasks. Living on his property in the guest house, available whenever needed. This says I'd live at your estate. Yes. The hours are long and often unpredictable. It's easier if you're on site. The guest house is fully furnished, 2 bedrooms. You'd have complete privacy. People will talk, Tamara said quietly. They'll say things. Let them. Harrison's voice was firm. I know what I'm offering. A job. Nothing more, nothing less. You'll work hard and I'll pay you fairly. If anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with me. Tamara thought about her mother, lying in that hospital bed, weak from chemo, trying to smile when Tamara visited. She thought about the bill that kept growing, the calls from the billing department, the fear that lived in her chest like a stone. When would I start? Today, if you accept. I'll have someone collect your things from your apartment and bring them to the guest house. You can visit your mother this afternoon, tell her the good news. Tomorrow we start work. It was too fast. Too easy. Too good to be true. Every instinct Tamara had told her to be careful, to question, to protect herself. But then she thought about the kindness in Harrison's eyes last night, the way he'd listened without judgment, the gentleness in his voice. Sometimes, her mother had told her once, you have to have faith. You have to believe that good things can happen, even when life has beaten you down. Okay, Tamara said, her voice stronger than she felt. I accept. Thank you. Thank you so much. You don't need to thank me. You're going to earn every penny. Harrison held out his hand. Welcome to Bennett Industries, Tamara Washington. She shook his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin, the firmness of his grip. Something passed between them in that moment, something neither of them could name. Understanding, maybe. Or the beginning of trust. I won't let you down, Tamara promised. I know you won't. Catherine appeared at the door, her smile wide. Shall I show Miss Washington to HR for paperwork? Please. And Catherine? Make sure everything is expedited. I want her set up completely by end of day. Of course, Mr. Bennett. Tamara followed Catherine out, her mind spinning. She'd woken up this morning as a waitress struggling to survive. Now, somehow her entire life had changed. She had a job that paid real money. A place to live. A chance to save her mother. As the elevator descended, Tamara sent up a silent prayer of gratitude. She didn't know what the future held, didn't know if she was making the right choice. But for the first time in months she felt something other than despair. She felt hope. The guest house sat at the edge of Harrison's property, separated from the main house by a beautiful garden with stone paths and flowering bushes. Tamara stood in the doorway taking it in. 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, a bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. The furniture was simple but expensive, everything clean and bright. Sunlight streamed through the windows. It was bigger than any place she'd ever lived. "It's too much," she whispered to herself, setting down her single suitcase. Everything she owned fit in that one bag. It looked tiny in the spacious living room. A knock at the door startled her. Harrison wheeled himself into view, his expression cautious. "May I come in? It's your house. It's your home now." He waited until she nodded before crossing the threshold. "I wanted to make sure everything is acceptable. If you need anything changed, just say so." "It's perfect." Tamara gestured around helplessly. "It's more than perfect. I've never had this much space." "Good." Harrison looked relieved. "We start early tomorrow. 7 in the morning. I'll give you today to settle in, visit your mother, rest. You'll need your energy." "What exactly will I be doing?" "Everything," Harrison said with a slight smile. "Managing my calendar, screening calls, attending meetings to take notes, coordinating with other departments. I'll also need help with some personal tasks. Physical therapy exercises, getting documents from high shelves, that sort of thing. Nothing inappropriate, I promise." Tamara nodded. "I'm not afraid of hard work." "I know. That's why you're here." Harrison paused. "The staff will bring dinner to your door at 6. Don't feel like you need to cook tonight. Just rest." After he left, Tamara explored her new home slowly, touching things carefully as if they might disappear. She called her mother from the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed with its soft comforter. "Baby?" Her mother's voice sounded weak but curious. "Why are you calling in the middle of the day?" "Mama, I have news." "Good news." Tamara took a deep breath. "I got a new job. A really good one. The pay is—" "Mama, I can afford your treatment. All of it." Silence on the other end. Then a sound like crying. "Mama?" "Thank you, Jesus," Dorothy Washington whispered. "Oh, thank you. Baby, what kind of job?" "Personal assistant to a CEO. Is legitimate, I promise. He's a good man." "He—" Her mother's tone sharpened despite her weakness. "Tamara Lynn Washington, you be careful." "I am, Mama. I promise. He's in a wheelchair. He just needs help managing his business and his life. That's all." They talked for another hour, Tamara describing the guest house, the estate, the way Harrison had treated her with respect. By the time she hung up, her mother sounded more hopeful than she had in months. The next morning, Tamara woke at 6, showered, and dressed in one of the 3 professional outfits Catherine had helped her purchase yesterday with an advance on her salary. The blue skirt and white blouse made her look capable, professional. She pulled her hair back and studied herself in the mirror. "You can do this," she told her reflection. Harrison was already in his home office when she arrived at 7, working at his computer. The room was spacious and organized, everything within his reach. He looked up when she entered, his eyes assessing. "Ready?" "Ready." The first week was overwhelming. Tamara learned about Harrison's company, which specialized in medical technology and research. She sat in on meetings with scientists and doctors, taking notes she barely understood. She managed a calendar that was packed from dawn until late evening. She fielded phone calls from people whose names she recognized from magazines. Harrison was patient but demanding. He expected excellence, but he also taught her, explaining things she didn't understand, showing her how his world worked. Tamara absorbed it all like a sponge, determined to prove she belonged here. She also learned about his accident. It came up naturally one afternoon as she helped him with his physical therapy exercises. His therapist, Angela, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, guided Tamara through the stretches. 3 years ago, Harrison said as Tamara carefully moved his leg through the prescribed motions. "Car accident. Drunk driver ran a red light. I spent 6 months in the hospital. They said I'd never walk again. Do you think they're wrong?" Tamara asked. "I don't know. Maybe. The sensation isn't completely gone. Angela thinks there's hope if I'm willing to try experimental treatments." "Are you?" Harrison was quiet for a moment. "I was. Right after the accident. But then my fiancé left. My business partners wanted to force me out. Everyone saw me as broken, useless. I got tired of fighting. It was easier to accept it." "But you didn't accept it," Tamara pointed out. "You're still doing therapy. Still hoping." "I suppose I am." Harrison looked at her curiously. "You're very direct, you know that?" "Sorry?" I can be more formal if you want. No. His voice was firm. Don't change. I like that you say what you think. They fell into a routine. Mornings were for business, packed with meetings and calls and decisions that affected thousands of people. Afternoons included physical therapy, administrative work, and strategic planning. Evenings, after the formal work was done, Harrison often asked Tamara to read to him while he worked on his exercises. She read business journals, novels, sometimes just the news. Her voice filled the quiet spaces of his home. Harrison would close his eyes and listen, his face peaceful in a way it never was during the day. You have a good reading voice, he said one evening. Soothing. My mama used to say I should have been a teacher. Why didn't you? College costs money. My dad left when I was 10. Mama worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. I worked through high school to help. After graduation, there wasn't money for anything except survival. Tamara closed the book. I don't regret it. Family takes care of family. You're a good person, Tamara Washington. I'm just a person. Nothing special. I disagree. The words hung in the air between them, carrying weight neither of them wanted to examine too closely. Tamara stood, suddenly uncomfortable with the intimacy of the moment. I should let you rest. Big meeting tomorrow with the board. Tomorrow. Harrison's voice stopped her at the door. Thank you. For everything. You've made my life easier in ways you don't realize. You gave me a job that saved my mother's life. I should be thanking you. We can both be grateful then. Tamara smiled and left, but Harrison's words stayed with her as she walked back to the guest house under the stars. The night air was cool, the garden peaceful. For the first time in years she felt like she could breathe properly. She'd been here 3 weeks and already this place felt more like home than anywhere she'd lived. The work was hard but it was meaningful. Harrison treated her with respect, even kindness. She was learning, growing, becoming someone new. But there was something else too. Something she tried not to think about. The way her heart beat faster when Harrison smiled. The warmth that spread through her chest when he said her name. The way she looked forward to their evening reading sessions more than she should. It was nothing, she told herself firmly. Gratitude, that's all. He'd saved her mother's life. Of course she felt connected to him. But late at night, lying in her comfortable bed, Tamara wondered if she was lying to herself. And if she was, what that might mean. Spring arrived at the estate like a whisper, turning the gardens into a canvas of colors. Tamara had been working for Harrison for 2 months now, and the rhythm of their days had become comfortable, easy. She knew his preferences, anticipated his needs, managed his complicated life with increasing confidence. Her mother's treatment was going well. The tumors were shrinking. Dorothy's voice grew stronger with each phone call. That alone would have made everything worth it. But Tamara couldn't deny that there was more. Tell me about your childhood, Harrison said one afternoon as Tamara pushed his wheelchair through the garden paths. The sun was bright, the air warm. They'd finished early for once and Harrison had suggested getting outside. Not much to tell. Normal life. School, friends, church on Sundays. Mama worked hard to give me a good life. What about your father? Tamara was quiet for a moment. He left when I was 10. Said he couldn't handle the pressure of family. Mama never dated again after that. She said she was too busy raising me to waste time on men who didn't know how to stay. That must have been hard on you. It was harder on her. Tamara stopped the wheelchair near a bench overlooking a small pond. She loved him. Really loved him. When he left, part of her left too. But she kept going for me. That's what love is, I think. Showing up even when it hurts. Harrison looked up at her, his green eyes thoughtful. Is that what you want? Someone who shows up. Doesn't everyone? Tamara sat on the bench beside him. What about you? Your fiancée left after the accident. Do you still think about her? Sometimes. Mostly I think about how wrong I was about her. I thought we had something real. Turns out it was only real when life was easy. Harrison's voice was matter-of-fact, but Tamara heard the hurt underneath. Her loss, Tamara said firmly. You're a good man, Harrison Bennett. Wheelchair or no wheelchair. He smiled at that, the expression transforming his usually serious face. You're good for my ego. Someone needs to be. You're too hard on yourself. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunlight dance on the pond. Tamara found herself studying Harrison's profile, the strong line of his jaw, the way his hair curled slightly at the nape of his neck. She caught herself and looked away quickly. This was dangerous territory. He was her employer. She was his employee. Those were clear lines that shouldn't be crossed. Tamara? Harrison's voice pulled her from her thoughts. Are you happy here? The question surprised her. Yes. Very happy. Why? I want to make sure. You work long hours. You're away from your mother. This isn't the life you planned. Nobody's life goes according to plan, Tamara said gently. But yes, I'm happy. This job, this place, it's all more than I ever hoped for. Good. Harrison reached out and squeezed her hand briefly. I'm glad you're here. The touch was quick, casual, but it sent warmth shooting up Tamara's arm. She stood abruptly, flustered. We should head back. You have that conference call at 4. Always keeping me on schedule, Harrison said, but his eyes were knowing. That evening, as Tamara was preparing to leave for the day, a sleek car pulled up to the main house. A woman stepped out, tall and elegant in a designer pantsuit. Her dark hair was cut short, her movements confident and commanding. Harrison wheeled himself out to greet her, and they embraced. Tamara watched from the window of the office, something uncomfortable twisting in her stomach. That's Patricia, Catherine said, appearing beside Tamara. Harrison's older sister. She visits once a month to check on him. She lives far away? Boston. She runs the East Coast division of the company. Catherine's voice dropped slightly. Be careful around her. She's protective of Harrison. Very protective. The last assistant quit partially because Patricia made her life difficult. Tamara filed that information away, feeling uneasy. She finished her work and headed toward the guest house, trying not to look at the main house where Harrison and his sister were likely catching up. But Patricia found her the next morning. Tamara was in the kitchen of the guest house making coffee when a knock sounded. She opened the door to find Patricia Bennett standing there, her expression cool and assessing. Miss Washington. I'm Patricia Bennett, Harrison's sister. May I come in? Of course. Tamara stepped aside, very aware of her simple pajamas and bare feet compared to Patricia's polished appearance. Patricia didn't waste time. How long have you been working for my brother? 2 months. And how did you meet him? At the restaurant where I used to work. It was accidental. How convenient. Patricia's tone was sharp. A poor waitress accidentally meets a wealthy man in a wheelchair. Quite the story. Tamara felt her spine straighten. I don't like what you're suggesting. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating facts. You have no experience, no education, no background that qualifies you for this position. Yet here you are, living on my brother's property, spending every day with him, earning a salary that I imagine is quite generous. I work hard for that salary. I'm sure you do. Patricia moved closer, her voice dropping. Here's what I know, Miss Washington. My brother is lonely. He's vulnerable. The accident changed him. And vulnerable people make poor decisions, especially when someone young and pretty is paying attention to them. Heat rushed to Tamara's face. I have never done anything inappropriate with Harrison. Not yet, perhaps. But I see how this goes. You'll get closer. He'll start depending on you emotionally. Maybe he'll even convince himself he has feelings for you. And then you'll have him exactly where you want him. That's not what this is. Isn't it? Patricia's eyes were cold. You needed money for your mother's medical bills. How fortunate that you found someone who could pay them. Tell me, Miss Washington, what happens when your mother is cured? Will you still be here? Or will you have gotten whatever it is you really want from my brother? Tamara forced herself to stay calm, even though her hands were shaking. I understand you're protective of Harrison. That's good. He should have people who care about him. But you're wrong about me. I'm not after his money or trying to manipulate him. I'm just doing my job. We'll see. Patricia moved toward the door, then paused. A word of advice. Know your place, Miss Washington. You're the help. Nothing more. The sooner you remember that, the better it will be for everyone. She left, closing the door with a soft click that felt louder than a slam. Tamara stood frozen, Patricia's words echoing in her mind. Know your place. The help. Nothing more. Was that really all she was? Just an employee who should keep her distance, do her work, and not let herself feel anything beyond professional courtesy? But she did feel things. She felt warmth when Harrison smiled at her. She felt happy during their conversations. She felt something growing between them that she didn't quite know how to name. Was Patricia right? Was Tamara fooling herself? Was she taking advantage of Harrison's loneliness without meaning to? These questions haunted her through the day. She went through the motions of her work, but her mind was elsewhere. Harrison noticed, of course. He always noticed. What did Patricia say to you? He asked during their afternoon session. Nothing important. Tamara. His voice was gentle but firm. Don't lie to me. I know my sister. What did she say? Tamara met his eyes, then looked away. She thinks I'm taking advantage of you. That I'm here for your money, that I'm manipulating you. Harrison's jaw tightened. And what do you think? I think. Tamara chose her words carefully. I think the lines between us are getting blurry. I think maybe I should be more careful about maintaining professional distance. Is that what you want? It's what's appropriate. That's not what I asked. Harrison wheeled closer. Do you want distance between us? Do you want to go back to being just employer and employee, nothing more? Tamara's heart hammered in her chest. It doesn't matter what I want. Your sister is right about one thing. You're vulnerable and I'm in a position of dependence. Anything between us would be complicated. Life is complicated, Harrison said quietly. But that doesn't mean we should avoid it. I value our friendship, Tamara. These past 2 months have been the happiest I've been since the accident. Please don't let Patricia's paranoia ruin that. I just don't want to hurt you. Or take advantage. You couldn't if you tried. Harrison reached out and took her hand. You're one of the most honest people I've ever met. Whatever this is between us, it's real. Don't doubt that. Tamara squeezed his hand, feeling the warmth of his touch. Okay. But we should be careful. For both our sakes. Agreed. But as Tamara left that evening, she wondered if being careful was even possible anymore. Her feelings for Harrison were growing stronger every day, and from the way he looked at her, she suspected his were too. Patricia was right about one thing. This situation was complicated. The question was whether complicated meant impossible or just difficult. Tamara hoped for the latter, even though she knew she probably shouldn't. 3 weeks after Patricia's visit, a woman showed up at the estate unannounced. Tamara was in Harrison's office, organizing files, when Catherine buzzed through on the intercom. Mr. Bennett, there's a Vanessa Crawford here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment. The color drained from Harrison's face. His hands gripped the arms of his wheelchair tightly. Tell her I'm busy. She says she'll wait as long as necessary. Harrison was silent for a long moment. Tamara watched him struggle with the decision. Finally he sighed. Fine. Send her in. Who is she? Tamara asked. My ex-fiancée. Tamara barely had time to process that before the door opened. Vanessa Crawford was beautiful in a cold, polished way. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her designer dress probably cost thousands. She moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in her life. Her eyes swept over the office, landing on Harrison. Something flickered in her expression. Pity maybe. Or calculation. Harrison. Her voice was smooth as honey. You look well. Vanessa. What do you want? Can't I visit an old friend? We're not friends. Harrison's voice was flat. You made that clear 3 years ago when you returned my ring. Vanessa's eyes moved to Tamara. And who is this? Your assistant? Yes. Tamara Washington. Tamara, this is Vanessa Crawford. Tamara nodded politely but didn't speak. Something about this woman made her instincts scream danger. Perhaps we could speak privately? Vanessa suggested, her tone pointed. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of Tamara. Vanessa's smile tightened, but she recovered quickly. Very well. I've been following your company's progress. The new medical research division is impressive. The stock price has doubled in the past year. Get to the point. I made a mistake. Vanessa moved closer, her hand reaching toward Harrison's wheelchair. I was scared after the accident. I didn't handle it well. But I've had time to think, to grow. I want another chance. The audacity of it took Tamara's breath away. This woman had abandoned Harrison when he needed her most, and now she wanted back in because his business was successful? Harrison's laugh was bitter. A chance at what? Me? Or my bank account? That's not fair. Fair? Harrison's voice rose slightly. You left me in the hospital, Vanessa. You said you couldn't handle being with someone who was broken. Your word, not mine. Broken. I was young and foolish. You were 30 years old. And I'm not interested in revisiting this. Whatever we had is dead. It died the day you walked away. Vanessa's mask cracked, showing anger underneath. Is it because of her? She gestured at Tamara. Your little assistant? Really, Harrison? She's probably half your age. I'm 26, Tamara said coolly. And this has nothing to do with me. Harrison is simply not interested in you. How sweet. The help thinks she has a say. Vanessa's smile was sharp. Tell me, dear, how much is he paying you to play this role? That's enough. Harrison's voice cut through the tension. Leave Vanessa. Now. Before I have security escort you out. You'll regret this. When she takes you for everything you have, Don't come crying to me. I won't. Harrison's eyes were hard. Goodbye, Vanessa. She left in a swirl of expensive perfume and rage. The door clicked shut behind her. Harrison closed his eyes, his hands shaking slightly on the armrests. Are you okay? Tamara asked gently. I'm fine. That was unpleasant. She's awful. Harrison opened his eyes, surprised. That's direct. You said you wanted me to be honest. Tamara knelt beside his wheelchair so they were eye level. She hurt you. She left when you needed her. And now she wants back in because you're successful. That's not love. That's not even friendship. It's opportunism, and you deserve so much better. Something shifted in Harrison's expression. He reached out and touched her cheek gently, his thumb brushing her skin. Thank you. For saying that. For believing it. It's the truth. They stayed like that for a moment, the air between them charged with something neither wanted to name. Then Tamara stood, breaking the spell. I should get back to work. Tamara. Harrison's voice stopped her. She was wrong, you know. What she said about you. You're not the help. You're my friend. Maybe more. Tamara's heart stuttered. Harrison. I know. It's complicated. But I needed to say it. After seeing Vanessa, being reminded of what fake looks like, I want you to know that what we have is real. It is, Tamara whispered. But we can't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Why not? Because I work for you. Because you saved my mother's life, and I'll always be grateful for that. Because people will say I'm taking advantage of you, and maybe part of me will always wonder if they're right. Because this power imbalance between us makes everything murky. Tamara felt tears prick her eyes. I care about you, Harrison. So much. But I need to be sure it's real, not just gratitude or circumstance. Harrison nodded slowly. I understand. But Tamara? It is real. At least for me. And when you're ready, when you're sure, I'll be here. Tamara fled the office before she could do something foolish like kiss him. Her heart raced as she made her way to the guest house. She needed space to think, to breathe, to figure out what she was feeling. But over the next few days, it became clear that Vanessa wasn't giving up easily. She showed up at the estate again, claiming she'd left something in Harrison's office. She sent gifts, extravagant flowers, and expensive wines. She called the office repeatedly, always with some excuse to talk to Harrison. And then the rumors started. Tamara heard them from Catherine, who heard them from other staff members. Word was spreading in Harrison's social circles that he was being manipulated by his young, inexperienced assistant. That Tamara was taking advantage of his loneliness. That she was after his money. It's Vanessa, Catherine said grimly. She's spreading poison everywhere she goes. Why would she do that? Tamara asked, even though she knew the answer. Because she wants him back and you're in the way. But Tamara wasn't in the way. She and Harrison were just friends, just employer and employee. Except that wasn't quite true anymore, was it? The tension came to a head at a company event. It was a charity gala, black tie, held at the city's most exclusive hotel. Harrison had asked Tamara to attend as his assistant, to help manage his schedule and needs during the evening. She wore a borrowed dress, simple and red, the nicest thing she'd ever had on her body. Harrison's eyes had widened when he saw her. You look beautiful, he'd said simply. The gala was overwhelming. Hundreds of people in expensive clothes, drinking champagne that cost more than Tamara used to make in a week. She stuck close to Harrison, managing his needs, keeping him on schedule. And then Vanessa appeared. She was dressed to impress in a designer gown that probably cost more than a car. She made a beeline for Harrison, her smile predatory. Harrison, darling. So good to see you here. She ignored Tamara completely. Dance with me? I can't dance, Vanessa. You know that. All right. How silly of me. Her tone was sweet but her eyes were cruel. Well, perhaps your assistant can push you around the floor. She seems to do everything else for you. Vanessa. Harrison's voice was cold. Stop. Stop what? I'm just making conversation. She turned to Tamara, her smile sharp. Tell me, dear, is it exhausting? Pretending to care about a man in a wheelchair just for the paycheck? The words hit Tamara like a slap. Around them, people were starting to notice the confrontation. That's not what I'm doing, Tamara said quietly. No? Then why are you here? Oh, that's right. He's paying you to be. Vanessa's voice rose slightly, drawing more attention. How much is your loyalty worth, I wonder? How much does he have to pay to keep you by his side? Enough. Harrison's voice cut through the growing murmur of the crowd. Vanessa, you're making a scene. Am I? Or am I just saying what everyone else is thinking? That you've let your loneliness make you foolish? That this girl is clearly using you. The only person who ever used me was you. Harrison's words were clear and strong. You left when life got hard. Tamara has stayed and worked and earned every penny I pay her. She's worth 10 of you, Vanessa. 100 of you. And if you ever speak to her like that again, I'll make sure you regret it. The room had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now. Vanessa's face flushed red. You'll regret this, Harrison. When she ruins you, remember that I warned you. She stalked off, leaving a wake of whispers behind her. Harrison looked at Tamara, his expression apologetic. I'm sorry. I should have handled that better. You defended me. Tamara's voice shook slightly. Thank you. Always, Harrison said simply. But as they left the gala early, Tamara couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Vanessa had been humiliated in front of everyone. Women like that didn't forgive. They got even. And Tamara had a feeling she was about to find out just how vindictive Vanessa Crawford could be. The call came at 2 in the morning. Tamara woke to her phone buzzing insistently on the nightstand. She grabbed it, her heart already racing. Late-night calls meant bad news. Miss Washington? This is St. Mary's Hospital. Your mother has been admitted to the emergency room. Tamara was dressed and out the door in 5 minutes. She ran to the main house, not caring that she was in pajamas, not caring about anything except getting to her mother. Harrison's bedroom light was on. She knocked frantically. He appeared in the doorway, alert despite the hour. Tamara? What's wrong? My mother. She's in the hospital. I need to go. I'm sorry, I know it's the middle of the night, but I need. Give me 2 minutes to dress. I'll drive you. Harrison, you don't have to. 2 minutes. His voice left no room for argument. They made it to the hospital in 20 minutes, Harrison's driver navigating the empty streets quickly. Tamara sat in the back seat, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. Harrison reached over and covered her hands with one of his. She'll be okay, he said. You don't know that. No. But I know she's a fighter. Like her daughter. The emergency room was bright and sterile and terrifying. A nurse directed them to the intensive care unit. Tamara's legs felt weak as they took the elevator up. Dorothy Washington lay in a hospital bed, hooked up to machines that beeped and hummed. She looked so small, so frail. Her dark skin had an ashen tone that made Tamara's stomach clench. A doctor appeared, young and tired-looking. Miss Washington? I'm Dr. Phillips. Your mother had a severe reaction to her latest round of chemotherapy. Her body went into shock. We've stabilized her, but... He paused. Her condition is more serious than we initially thought. The cancer is aggressive. The current treatment isn't working as well as we'd hoped. What are you saying? I'm saying we need to consider other options. More aggressive treatments. Possibly experimental therapies. Dr. Phillips glanced at his clipboard. The costs will be substantial. Insurance won't cover most of it. Tamara felt the world tilt. How much? The full course of treatment could run between $200,000 and $300,000. The number was impossible. Even with her new salary, even with the money she'd saved, it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. I can't. Tamara's voice broke. I don't have that much. Harrison's hand touched her shoulder. What's the best treatment available? Money isn't a concern. Dr. Phillips looked between them, then at Harrison's wheelchair. Understanding dawned. There's a clinical trial at Stanford. Experimental immunotherapy. It's shown remarkable results, but the waiting list is long and the costs. I'll make some calls, Harrison said. We'll get her in. Whatever it takes. Harrison, I can't let you do that. Tamara turned to him, tears streaming down her face. It's too much. I can't pay you back. I'm not asking you to. His voice was gentle but firm. Tamara, your mother is sick. Let me help. Please. Why? Why would you do this? Because I can. Because it's the right thing to do. Harrison's eyes met hers. And because I care about you. Which means I care about the people you love. Tamara broke down then, sobbing into her hands. Harrison pulled her close, his arms strong despite the wheelchair. She cried against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. I've got you, he whispered. I've got you both. True to his word, Harrison made calls. By morning, Dorothy Washington was being transferred to Stanford Medical Center. A private jet was arranged. The best doctors were standing by. Harrison had moved mountains with a few phone calls, spending money that most people couldn't even imagine having. Tamara rode in the jet with her mother, holding her hand, watching her sleep. Harrison had stayed behind to manage the business, but he'd made sure everything was arranged perfectly. Your young man is something special, Dorothy whispered at one point, her eyes opening briefly. He's not my young man, Mama. He's my boss. Baby, I may be sick but I'm not blind. I saw how he looked at you in that hospital. That man loves you. Mama. And you love him too. Don't shake your head at me. I'm your mother. I know. Tamara couldn't argue because it was true. Somewhere along the way, gratitude had become friendship, and friendship had become something deeper, warmer, more frightening. She did love Harrison. And judging by his actions tonight, he might love her too. But was love enough when everything else was so complicated? The treatment at Stanford was intense. Tamara took a leave of absence from work, though Harrison kept paying her salary. She stayed in a hotel near the hospital, spending every day at her mother's bedside. Harrison called twice a day every day. He sent flowers. He arranged for meals to be delivered. He made sure Tamara had everything she needed. How is she? He asked during one call. The doctors are hopeful. The treatment is harsh, but she's responding. Tamara paused. Harrison, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. Just focus on your mother. When I come back we need to talk. About everything. I'd like that. His voice was warm through the phone. Tamara? I miss you. I miss you too. 3 weeks later, Dorothy Washington's scans came back clear. The experimental treatment had worked. The cancer was in remission. She'd need ongoing monitoring and follow-up care, but the worst was over. Tamara cried when the doctor told them, great heaving sobs of relief. Her mother held her, both of them shaking. We made it, baby, Dorothy whispered. We made it. Because of Harrison. No. Because of love. Dorothy pulled back and looked at her daughter seriously. That man loves you, Tamara. And you love him. Don't let pride or fear stop you from admitting it. What if people think I'm with him for his money? People will think all sorts of things. Let them. You know the truth. He knows the truth. That's what matters. Subscribe now to see what happens when Tamara finally admits her feelings. Will Harrison feel the same? Will their love story have a happy ending? Drop a comment below telling us what you think Tamara should do. Tamara returned to the estate on a bright May afternoon. The gardens were in full bloom, the air sweet with flowers. She'd been gone almost a month. The guest house felt strange now, like a place she'd visited in a dream. Harrison was in his office when she arrived. He looked up from his computer, his face lighting up when he saw her. You're back. I'm back. Tamara set down her bag. My mother is in remission. She's going to be okay. That's wonderful. Harrison wheeled around his desk. I'm so glad, Tamara. They looked at each other, the air between them charged with everything unsaid. We should talk, Tamara said. Yes, we should. But before either could say more, Catherine appeared at the door, her expression worried. Mr. Bennett, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a problem. The board has called an emergency meeting. They're saying? She glanced at Tamara uncomfortably. They're saying there are concerns about your relationship with Miss Washington. Harrison's expression hardened. What kind of concerns? Vanessa has been talking to board members. She's convinced several of them that Miss Washington is taking advantage of you, that you're not thinking clearly. They want to discuss removing you from your position as CEO. The words hung in the air like a bomb. Let them try, Harrison said quietly. Schedule the meeting for tomorrow morning. I'll handle it. After Catherine left, Tamara sank into a chair. This is my fault. If I hadn't come here, if I'd kept my distance. Stop. Harrison moved close to her. This is Vanessa being vindictive. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. Harrison, maybe I should resign. Clear the air. Is that what you want? Tamara met his eyes. No. But I don't want to cost you your company either. You won't. I built this company from nothing. A few board members aren't going to take it from me. Harrison reached out and took her hand. Besides, I have something they don't have. The truth. What truth? That I'm in love with you. The words were simple, direct. I tried not to be. I told myself it was gratitude or loneliness or a dozen other things. But it's love. I love you, Tamara Washington. And I'm done pretending I don't. Tamara's heart felt too big for her chest. I love you too. I have for weeks now. But Harrison, this makes everything more complicated. Or simpler. He smiled slightly. Either way, we face it together. And sitting there in his office, Tamara realized her mother was right. Love wasn't about perfect timing or easy circumstances. It was about showing up even when things got hard. It was about choosing each other despite all the complications. Together, she agreed, squeezing his hand. Whatever comes next, we face it together. The board meeting was scheduled for 10 in the morning. Tamara spent the night before preparing, reviewing documents, double-checking facts. She wanted to be ready for whatever came. Harrison found her in the office at midnight, papers spread around her. "You should be sleeping," he said. "So should you." He wheeled over to where she sat on the floor surrounded by files. "Come here." Tamara moved to sit on the couch. Harrison positioned himself beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Before tomorrow. Before everything gets more complicated." "Okay." "The accident 3 years ago. It changed me in ways that had nothing to do with the wheelchair." Harrison's voice was quiet. "I became bitter. Angry. I pushed people away because it was easier than letting them see me struggle. I convinced myself I was fine alone. You don't have to explain." "I do. Because I need you to understand what you've done for me." Harrison turned to face her. "You came into my life and reminded me what it feels like to be seen. Not pitted, not used, but actually seen. You made me laugh again. You made me want to try again. You made me feel like I was more than my limitations." Tamara felt tears prick her eyes. "Harrison. I love you," he said again. "And I know the timing is terrible. I know tomorrow's meeting is going to be difficult. I know people will say I'm being manipulated or that you're taking advantage. But none of that changes how I feel. I love you too." The words came easily now. "I tried not to. I told myself it was wrong, that I was confused, that it was just gratitude. But it's not. It's real. You're the kindest, strongest person I've ever met. The wheelchair doesn't define you. Your wealth doesn't define you. Your character does. And your character is beautiful." Harrison reached up and touched her face gently, his fingers tracing her cheek. "May I kiss you?" Tamara's breath caught. They were crossing a line, moving from what was safe into territory that scared her. But she nodded. The kiss was soft, gentle, sweet. Harrison's lips moved against hers carefully, as if she might break. Tamara leaned into it, her hands coming up to cup his face. The kiss deepened and everything else fell away. There was just this moment, this feeling, this rightness. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "I've wanted to do that for months," Harrison admitted. "Me too." They sat close together, foreheads touching, hands clasped. Outside, the night was quiet. Inside, something fundamental had shifted. "What happens tomorrow?" Tamara asked. "I defend you. I defend us. I defend my right to love who I choose. You could lose your company. Then I lose it." Harrison's voice was firm. "But I won't lose you. Not for anything. That's not a fair trade. It's my choice to make." They talked late into the night, making plans, discussing strategies. But mostly they just sat together, enjoying the freedom of finally admitting what they felt. Morning came too quickly. Tamara dressed in her most professional outfit, a navy skirt and white blouse. She pulled her hair back severely. She wanted to look competent, professional, unimpeachable. The board meeting was held in Bennett Industries' main conference room. 12 board members sat around a huge table. Tamara recognized some faces from company events. Others were strangers. Patricia was there, her expression carefully neutral. Vanessa sat in the gallery looking smug. Harrison wheeled himself to the head of the table, Tamara standing slightly behind him. He looked calm, controlled, every inch the CEO. The chairman, an older man named Richard Wilson, called the meeting to order. "Mr. Bennett, this meeting was called to discuss concerns about your recent behavior and decision-making. Specifically, your relationship with your assistant, Miss Washington." "What concerns?" Harrison's voice was level. "Several board members have received information suggesting that Miss Washington is taking advantage of your position. That she's manipulated you into providing her with money, housing, and opportunities beyond what's appropriate for her role." "And who provided this information?" Harrison looked directly at Vanessa. "Let me guess. Vanessa Crawford. My ex-fiancée who's been harassing both Miss Washington and myself for months." Vanessa stood up. "I'm trying to protect you, Harrison. Everyone can see what's happening except you." "Sit down, Miss Crawford," Richard said firmly. "You're not a member of this board." "Then why is she here?" Harrison gestured at Vanessa. "She provided information that we felt needed to be investigated." "Information. Or gossip?" Harrison's voice sharpened. "Let's be clear about what's happening here. Vanessa is angry that I refused to take her back after she abandoned me. She's spreading lies about Miss Washington to hurt us both. And you're letting her manipulate you into questioning my competence." "No one is questioning your competence," another board member said. But we have a duty to the shareholders to ensure the company is being run properly. Your personal life is your business, unless it affects your judgment. And you think it has? The company stock is at an all-time high, Patricia spoke up suddenly. Profits are up 40% from last year. Our medical research division has made breakthroughs that are going to change lives. My brother's judgment is fine. Better than fine. He's doing the best work of his career. Several board members nodded, looking uncomfortable. Miss Washington, Richard addressed her directly. Would you care to respond to these allegations? Tamara stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. I work hard for Mr. Bennett. I manage his schedule, attend meetings, coordinate projects. I earn my salary. As for my personal relationship with him, that's between us. But I'm not taking advantage of anyone. I love Harrison and he loves me. That's not manipulation. That's life. How convenient, Vanessa called out, that you fell in love with a rich man who could pay your mother's medical bills. Harrison paid my mother's medical bills because he's a good man who helps people, Tamara shot back. He's donated millions to charity. He funds research that helps thousands. He employs hundreds of people at fair wages. Why is it suspicious when he helps me but admirable when he helps others? The room was silent. Because she's sleeping with him, Vanessa said bluntly. I'm not, Tamara said clearly. We've done nothing inappropriate. We haven't crossed any lines professionally. What we feel for each other is real and honest. Unlike whatever you felt for Harrison, which apparently ended the moment his life got difficult. Harrison's hand found hers, squeezing gently. This meeting is ridiculous, Patricia said coldly. Vanessa Crawford is a scorned woman spreading lies. That's all this is. If you try to remove my brother from his position, I'll fight you with everything I have. And so will every shareholder who cares about actual performance rather than gossip. Richard looked around the table. Several board members were nodding. Others looked uncertain. Perhaps we were hasty, he said finally. Mr. Bennett, your work speaks for itself. Your personal life is your own. However, we would appreciate it if you could maintain clearer boundaries going forward. No, Harrison said firmly. I won't hide my relationship with Tamara to make you comfortable. She's the woman I love. That's not changing. If the board has a problem with that, vote to remove me. But I won't pretend to be someone I'm not. The silence stretched. Then Patricia started clapping slowly. A few other board members joined in. Meeting adjourned, Richard said, looking defeated. As people filed out, Vanessa approached Harrison one last time. You're making a mistake, she hissed. No, Harrison said calmly. I made a mistake 3 years ago when I thought you loved me. Falling in love with Tamara is the smartest thing I've done since then. Vanessa left, her heels clicking angrily on the floor. Tamara let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. That was necessary, Harrison finished. And overdue. Patricia approached them, her expression softer than Tamara had ever seen it. I owe you an apology, she said to Tamara. I judged you without knowing you. I was wrong. Thank you, Tamara said, surprised. Take care of him. Patricia looked at her brother fondly. He deserves happiness. And it's clear you make him happy. After she left, Harrison and Tamara stood together in the empty conference room. We did it, Tamara said. We did. What now? Harrison smiled. Now we live our lives. Together. They left the building hand in hand, aware that people were watching, not caring. They'd faced down the worst and survived. Whatever came next, they'd handle it. Together. The week after the board meeting felt like the calm after a storm. Vanessa disappeared, finally accepting defeat. The gossip at Bennett Industries died down. Life returned to normal, or at least a new version of normal. Tamara continued working as Harrison's assistant. But now everyone knew they were also more than that. To her surprise, most people were supportive. She got smiles in the hallways, congratulations from coworkers. Catherine gave her a knowing look and said, about time. But not everything was smooth. 2 weeks after the meeting, Harrison's lawyer called with bad news. Vanessa had filed a lawsuit against him, claiming emotional distress and defamation. It was clearly a spite move without legal merit, but it would tie them up in court for months. She's not giving up, Tamara said, reading through the legal documents. She will eventually. Vanessa always moves on to the next thing when she realizes she can't win. Harrison didn't look worried. My lawyers are good. This won't go anywhere. But the lawsuit was just the beginning. Someone leaked a story to the press. Within days, tabloids were running headlines about the billionaire CEO and his former waitress girlfriend. The stories were sensational, painting Tamara as a gold digger and Harrison as a fool. Photographers camped outside the estate. Reporters called constantly. Tamara couldn't go anywhere without cameras in her face. "This is horrible," she said one evening, looking at a particularly nasty article on her phone. "Don't read them," Harrison advised. "They're garbage. They're calling me awful names. They're saying I seduced you for money, that I'm not qualified for my job, that I'm using you. And the people who matter know the truth." Harrison took her phone and set it aside. "Tamara, this is what happens when you're in the public eye. People make up stories. They create drama. We just have to ride it out." But riding it out was harder than Tamara expected. Her mother called worried. Old friends from the diner contacted her, some supportive, others judgmental. She felt exposed, vulnerable, like her private life had been put on display for the world to mock. The stress started showing in her work. She made mistakes with Harrison's schedule, missed important calls, forgot details. Harrison noticed but didn't say anything, just quietly fixed her errors. Until one afternoon when she accidentally double-booked him for 2 important meetings on the same day. "Tamara." Harrison's voice was gentle but firm. "Talk to me. What's going on?" "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're distracted and stressed. Tell me what you need." Tamara sank into a chair, exhausted. "I don't know if I can do this. The press, the attention, the constant judgment. I'm not built for this life. I'm just a regular person who fell in love with someone extraordinary. But maybe that's not enough." "Are you saying you want to leave?" "No. Maybe. I don't know." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I love you, Harrison. So much. But I'm scared. Scared of the spotlight, scared of letting you down, scared that everyone's right and I don't belong in your world." Harrison wheeled over and pulled her into his arms. "You belong wherever you choose to be. If that's with me, then you belong with me. The press will move on to the next story eventually. Vanessa will give up. Life will calm down. What if it doesn't? Then we'll handle it. Together." He pulled back to look at her. "But Tamara, I need you to be honest. If this life is truly too much, if you can't be happy with me, I need to know. I love you enough to let you go if that's what you need." The thought of leaving Harrison felt like having her heart ripped out. Whatever fear she felt, whatever stress the spotlight brought, none of it compared to how much she loved him. "I don't want to leave," she said firmly. "I want to stay. I want to figure this out. I just need to be stronger." "You're already strong. You just need to remember that." They sat together for a while, holding each other, finding strength in their connection. And slowly, Tamara felt her resolve return. She'd survived poverty, 3 jobs, her mother's illness. She could survive some bad press and a vindictive ex. But that night things got worse. Tamara was in the guest house when she heard shouting from the main house. She ran outside to find 2 reporters on the property, cameras flashing, yelling questions at Harrison, who was trying to get back inside. "Mr. Bennett, is it true you're planning to marry Miss Washington? How does it feel to be taken advantage of by a gold digger? Do you really think she loves you, or is it just your money?" Security was already running toward them, but Tamara got there first. She stepped between Harrison and the cameras, her eyes blazing. "Get off this property. Now." "Miss Washington, why don't you answer some questions? How much has Mr. Bennett spent on you? That's none of your business. This is private property. You're trespassing. The public has a right to know when a billionaire is being manipulated. The public has a right to mind their own business." Tamara's voice was cold and clear. "Harrison Bennett is a grown man capable of making his own choices. He's also one of the most intelligent, capable people I've ever met. If you think I could manipulate him, you're insulting his intelligence." Security arrived and started escorting the reporters out. One of them called back, "We'll be back. The truth always comes out." "The truth is I love him," Tamara shouted after them. "And he loves me. That's the only truth that matters." After they were gone, Tamara was shaking. Harrison reached up and took her hand. "That was incredible. That was terrifying. You defended us beautifully. I shouldn't have engaged with them. I should have just walked away. Maybe. But I'm glad you didn't." Harrison smiled. "You're fierce when you're protecting someone you love." The incident made the news, of course. But this time the coverage was different. People saw Tamara's passion, her genuine emotion. The tide of public opinion started to shift. Comments online were more supportive. Some reporters started questioning Vanessa's story. And then, a breakthrough. One of Harrison's investigators found evidence that Vanessa had been paid by a rival company to create chaos at Bennett Industries. The lawsuit, the press leaks, the harassment, it was all part of a corporate sabotage attempt. The evidence was presented to the authorities. Within days, Vanessa was arrested for fraud and conspiracy. The rival company's executives were also charged. The whole story came out. Vanessa had been bitter about Harrison's rejection, but she'd also been desperate for money after a series of bad investments. The rival company had offered her cash to undermine Harrison's reputation and create doubt among his board members. The press coverage shifted completely. Now Tamara and Harrison were portrayed as victims, their love story genuine. Public opinion swung firmly in their favor. Vanessa's lawsuit was dismissed. She issued a public apology, though it was clearly written by lawyers. The harassment stopped. The photographers went away. Life finally truly calmed down. One evening, Tamara and Harrison sat in the garden watching the sunset. The estate was peaceful, the air warm. They'd been through so much, but they'd survived it all. "I'm sorry," Harrison said suddenly, "for everything you went through because of me. The press, Vanessa, all of it. It wasn't your fault. In a way it was. I brought you into this world. I exposed you to this scrutiny. And you stood by me through all of it." Tamara took his hand. "You defended me to your board. You protected me from Vanessa. You never once asked me to change or hide who I was. That means everything. I love you exactly as you are." "I know. And I love you exactly as you are. Wheelchair and all, billionaire and all, stubborn and all." Harrison laughed, the sound warm in the evening air. "Stubborn?" "Very stubborn. But in a good way." They sat in comfortable silence, both thinking about how far they'd come. From that accidental meeting in a restaurant to this moment, their journey had been anything but simple. But it had been real, honest, and worth every difficulty. "What happens now?" Tamara asked. Now we live our lives. Well, figure things out as we go." "That sounds perfect." And in that moment, with Harrison's hand in hers and the future stretching out before them full of possibilities, Tamara truly believed it would be. 3 months passed in relative peace. Tamara and Harrison settled into a comfortable rhythm, navigating both work and relationship with growing confidence. The press had moved on to other stories. Vanessa was facing trial. Patricia had become a genuine friend to Tamara, often calling to chat or invite her to lunch. Tamara's mother was thriving. The experimental treatment continued to work well, and Dorothy was getting stronger every day. She'd started volunteering at a community center, teaching art classes to children. Her joy at being healthy again was infectious. "You saved my life," she told Tamara during one visit. "You and that wonderful man of yours. I love him, Mama. So much it scares me sometimes." Good love should scare you a little. It means it matters. Dorothy studied her daughter seriously. "Has he talked about the future? Marriage? Children?" "We're taking it slow. There's no rush. Baby, when you know, you know. Don't waste time being scared of happiness." Tamara thought about those words often over the next few days. She and Harrison had talked about the future in vague terms, but they'd never made concrete plans. Part of her wondered if Harrison was hesitant because of his disability, if he worried about being able to be a full partner, a husband, maybe a father. She wanted to reassure him that none of that mattered. She loved him as he was. But she didn't know how to start that conversation. The universe, it seemed, had its own timeline. Harrison came home from a doctor's appointment with news. Tamara knew something had happened the moment she saw his face. He looked excited and scared and hopeful all at once. "What is it?" she asked. "Sit down." Tamara sat, her heart racing. "You're worrying me." "Don't be worried. It's good news." "Maybe. Possibly." Harrison took a breath. "Dr. Chin has been consulting with a team of specialists. They've been reviewing my case for months, and they think they might have a solution." "A solution to what?" "To this." Harrison gestured at the wheelchair. "They want to try an experimental surgery. Nerve regeneration using stem cells and synthetic tissue. It's risky, success rate is only about 60%, but if it works..." "You could walk again," Tamara finished, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes." They stared at each other, the weight of the possibility hanging between them. "What happens if it doesn't work?" Tamara asked. "I stay in the wheelchair. Possibly with reduced nerve function from surgical complications. There's also a small risk of more serious complications." "How small?" 10% chance of infection or other serious issues." Tamara felt her stomach clench. "That's not small." "No, it's not." Harrison wheeled closer to her. "But Tamara, there's a chance. A real chance that I could walk again. That I could stand beside you instead of always looking up. That I could take you dancing, carry our groceries, run through the garden. I don't need you to do any of those things. I love you exactly as you are. I know you do. And that's part of why I want to try. Harrison took her hands. You've never once made me feel less than whole. But I've made myself feel that way. I want to try for me. To prove to myself that I haven't given up. That I'm still fighting. Tamara understood. It wasn't about her or their relationship. It was about Harrison reclaiming something the accident had taken from him. When would the surgery be? Dr. Chin wants to do it soon. Within the next 2 weeks. The procedure takes 8 hours. Recovery is 6 months of intensive physical therapy. 6 months? Possibly longer. There's no guarantee about the timeline. Or the outcome. Tamara thought about all the risks, all the ways this could go wrong. But she also thought about Harrison's face when he talked about walking again, the hope in his eyes. You should do it, she said firmly. You should try. Are you sure? I'm terrified. But yes, I'm sure. If there's a chance, you should take it. Harrison pulled her close, holding her tight. I'm scared too. I've accepted the wheelchair, built my life around it. What if I fail? What if the surgery doesn't work and I've put us both through all that stress for nothing? Then we handle it. Together. Tamara pulled back to look at him. But Harrison, what if it does work? What if 6 months from now you're walking again? That possibility is worth the risk. They decided to move forward with the surgery. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. Medical tests, consultations, paperwork. Harrison put his business affairs in order just in case. He updated his will, gave Patricia temporary control of the company, made sure everything was covered. Tamara tried to stay positive, but fear crept in at odd moments. What if something went wrong during surgery? What if she lost him? The thought was unbearable. The night before the surgery, they lay together in Harrison's bed. They'd become intimate over the past months, their physical relationship growing naturally alongside their emotional one. Tonight they just held each other, neither wanting to sleep. I love you, Harrison whispered in the darkness. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that. These past months with you have been the best of my life. Don't talk like that. You're going to be fine. But if I'm not? No. Tamara put her finger on his lips. You're going to be fine. You're going to have this surgery and it's going to work, and 6 months from now you're going to walk me around this estate and show off. Harrison smiled despite his nerves. Is that a promise? It's hope. And hope is powerful. The surgery began at 6 in the morning. Tamara sat in the waiting room with Patricia, Dorothy, and Catherine. 8 hours, the doctors had said. 8 hours of not knowing, of waiting, of praying. The minutes crawled by. Tamara couldn't sit still. She paced, made coffee no one drank, stared at the clock. Her mother held her hand. Patricia made phone calls. Catherine brought food that no one could eat. At hour 6, a nurse came out. He's doing well. Everything is proceeding as planned. The relief was overwhelming. Tamara actually felt her knees weaken. At hour 8, Dr. Chin appeared, still in his surgical scrubs. His face was unreadable. Tamara stood, her heart in her throat. Is he? The surgery was successful. Dr. Chen's serious face broke into a smile. We were able to reconnect the damaged nerve pathways and install the synthetic tissue grafts. Mr. Bennett is in recovery. It will be weeks before we know if he'll regain function, but the procedure itself went perfectly. Tamara burst into tears. Patricia hugged her. Dorothy whispered prayers of gratitude. Catherine actually laughed with relief. Can I see him? Tamara asked. Soon. He's still unconscious from anesthesia. Give him another hour. That hour felt longer than the previous 8. But finally, a nurse led Tamara back to Harrison's room. He looked pale and tired, hooked up to machines and IVs. But his eyes opened when she entered, and his smile was real. Hey, he said, his voice rough. Hey yourself. Tamara took his hand carefully. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck. But I'm alive. Dr. Chin said it went well. It did. You did it, Harrison. You actually did it. We did it. He squeezed her hand weakly. I couldn't have done this without you. They sat together in the quiet recovery room, hands clasped, both thinking about the long road ahead. 6 months of therapy. Months of pain and work and uncertainty. But also, possibly, the chance to walk again. Harrison dozed off, exhausted from the surgery. Tamara stayed by his bed, watching him sleep, feeling gratitude and hope and love so strong it made her chest ache. Whatever happened next, they'd face it together. And that was enough. The first 3 months after surgery were the hardest of Harrison's life. The pain was intense. The physical therapy was grueling. Some days he made progress. Other days he could barely move his legs at all. But Tamara was there through all of it. She supported him during therapy sessions, encouraged him when he wanted to give up, celebrated every tiny victory. When he could wiggle his toes for the first time, she cried. When he could feel sensation in his legs again, they both did. "I can feel you touching my ankle," he said one afternoon, wonder in his voice. "I can actually feel it." Angela, his therapist, was pleased with his progress. "You're responding better than expected. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." "That would be Tamara," Harrison said, looking at her with obvious love. "She's my inspiration." Slowly, painfully, Harrison began to regain function. First, small movements, then larger ones. At 4 months post-surgery, he stood for the first time, supported by parallel bars and Angela's strong hands. Tamara watched from the doorway, tears streaming down her face. Harrison was shaking with effort, his legs trembling, but he was standing. Actually standing. "I'm doing it," he gasped. "I'm actually doing it." "You're amazing," Tamara whispered. At 5 months he took his first steps. They were halting, uncertain, heavily supported. But they were steps. Real steps. The day he walked across the room unassisted, Patricia flew in from Boston to celebrate. They had a small party, just family and close friends. Harrison walked to each person, shaking hands, accepting hugs, proving to himself and everyone else that this was real. But he saved the best moment for Tamara. "Dance with me," he said, holding out his hand. "Harrison, you just learned to walk. You shouldn't." "Dance with me," he repeated. Catherine queued up a song on her phone, something slow and sweet. Harrison pulled Tamara into his arms, wrapping one hand around her waist, holding her hand with the other. They swayed gently, not quite dancing but moving together. "This is everything I dreamed of," Harrison whispered. "Being able to hold you like this, standing with you, not looking up at you." "I never minded looking down," Tamara said, but she was crying. "I know. But I minded. And now I don't have to." 6 months after the surgery, Harrison was declared fully recovered. He still used a cane sometimes, especially on rough terrain or after long days. But he could walk. He could run if he wanted to. He could live a normal, active life. Bennett Industries threw a massive celebration. The board members who'd once doubted him congratulated him warmly. The press covered his recovery story, painting him as an inspiration. But Harrison didn't care about any of that. He cared about Tamara. The day after the big company celebration, Harrison asked her to meet him at Marquis, the restaurant where they'd first met. Tamara was confused but agreed. She arrived to find the restaurant closed for a private event. Harrison stood in the doorway, not in a wheelchair this time. Standing. Wearing a perfect suit, holding a bouquet of roses. "What's this?" Tamara asked. "Come with me." He led her inside to the table where they'd first talked, the same corner table where an exhausted waitress had accidentally sat down and changed both their lives forever. 10 months ago, you sat at this table by mistake," Harrison said. "You were tired and worried and desperate. You told me about your mother, your struggles, your fears. You were honest and real in a way that shocked me." "Harrison, what's happening?" "I'm getting to it." He smiled. "You changed my life that night, Tamara. You reminded me what it means to be human, to connect, to care. You took a job you were overqualified for and exceeded every expectation. You dealt with my sister's suspicion, Vanessa's harassment, the press's judgment. You stood by me through surgery and recovery. You loved me when I was in a wheelchair, and you love me now that I can walk." Harrison knelt down on one knee, his legs steady beneath him. From his pocket he pulled out a small velvet box. Tamara's hands flew to her mouth. "Oh my God. Tamara Washington, you are the strongest, kindest, most beautiful person I've ever met. You make me better. You make me happier. You make me want to be the man you believe I am." He opened the box, revealing a ring that sparkled in the restaurant's light. "Will you marry me?" "Yes." The word burst out of her. "Yes, yes, yes." Harrison slid the ring onto her finger, then stood and pulled her into his arms. They kissed as applause erupted around them. Tamara looked up to see their family and friends emerging from the back of the restaurant. Her mother, Patricia, Catherine, Angela, even some of Harrison's board members. Everyone was clapping and cheering. "You planned this," Tamara said. "I've been planning it for months. I was just waiting until I could kneel properly." Harrison grinned. "Worth the wait." They set the wedding date for 6 months later, giving them time to plan properly. Tamara insisted on a modest ceremony, but Harrison convinced her to have something bigger, to celebrate with everyone who'd supported them. The wedding took place on the estate, in the garden where they'd spent so many evenings talking. White flowers covered every surface. A small orchestra played. 200 guests filled the chairs. Tamara walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, elegant and beautiful. Her mother walked beside her, healthy and glowing, tears of joy streaming down her face. Harrison waited at the altar, standing tall and proud. When Tamara reached him, he took her hands and whispered, "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." "Right back at you," she whispered, making him laugh. The ceremony was traditional but personal. They'd written their own vows. "I promise to stand beside you," Harrison said. "To support your dreams, to celebrate your victories, to comfort you in hard times. I promise to always see you, really see you, the way you saw me from the very first day. I promise to love you with everything I have, every day for the rest of my life." Tamara's voice shook as she spoke. "I promise to be honest with you even when it's hard. I promise to believe in you even when you doubt yourself. I promise to show up, to stay, to work through problems instead of running from them. I promise to love you in a wheelchair or walking or whatever life brings, because you are so much more than your circumstances. You're my best friend, my partner, my home." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. After the ceremony they had dinner and dancing. Dorothy danced with every willing partner, her energy seemingly boundless. Patricia gave a speech about how Tamara had tamed her stubborn brother. Catherine caught the bouquet and blushed bright red. But the best moment came when Harrison led Tamara onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. He held her close, moving slowly to the music, his steps confident and sure. "I love you, Mrs. Bennet," he whispered. "I love you too, Mr. Bennet." They danced surrounded by family and friends, by love and hope and joy. Two people who'd found each other by accident had built something real through choice, through work, through commitment. As the song ended and everyone applauded, Harrison dipped Tamara dramatically, making her laugh. When he pulled her back up, they were both grinning. "Happy?" he asked. "Unbelievably happy." "Good. Because this is just the beginning." And it was. They had a whole life ahead of them, full of possibilities and dreams and love. There would be challenges, of course. Life always brought challenges. But they'd face them together the way they'd faced everything else. 6 months after the wedding, Dorothy's doctors declared her completely cancer-free. The experimental treatment had worked beyond anyone's hopes. A year after that, Tamara gave birth to twin girls. Harrison cried when he held them for the first time, overwhelmed with gratitude for this life he'd never expected to have. They named the girls Hope and Grace, after the two things that had saved them both. Bennett Industries continued to thrive. Harrison expanded the medical research division, focusing on treatments for spinal injuries and other disabilities. He funded scholarships for young people like Tamara, giving them opportunities they might not otherwise have. Tamara stayed on as his assistant for another year, then decided to go back to school. She studied business management, eventually becoming a director at Bennett Industries, running a new division focused on community outreach and charitable programs. But the best moments were still the simple ones. Evening walks through the garden. Sunday dinners with family. Reading together in the quiet hours before bed. Dancing in the kitchen while making breakfast. One evening, 5 years after their wedding, Harrison and Tamara sat on their porch watching their daughters play in the garden. Hope chased butterflies while Grace tried to climb a tree. Dorothy supervised from a bench, laughing at their antics. "Can you believe this is our life?" Tamara asked, leaning against Harrison's shoulder. "Sometimes I still can't." Harrison wrapped his arm around her. "Some days I think about that night in the restaurant. What if you hadn't sat at my table? What if you'd seen the reserved sign? What if I'd been annoyed instead of curious? But I did sit there. You were curious. And here we are." "Here we are," Harrison repeated softly. "The luckiest man alive. We're both lucky." They sat in comfortable silence, watching their children play, feeling the warmth of the setting sun, surrounded by the life they'd built together. A life that had started with an accident, grown through challenges, and blossomed into something more beautiful than either had imagined. It wasn't a life without problems. They still had hard days. They still disagreed sometimes. They still faced challenges and made mistakes. But they faced everything together. With love, with hope, with the commitment they'd made to each other that day in the garden surrounded by white flowers and everyone they cared about. And that made all the difference. As the sun set and the girls came running for dinner, Tamara looked at Harrison and smiled. He smiled back, understanding everything in that glance. They'd found something rare. Something precious. Something worth every difficulty they'd faced to get here. They'd found each other. And they'd chosen every day to keep choosing each other. That was the real happy ending. Not perfection but partnership. Not ease but effort. Not fate but choice. Love, it turned out, was a verb. Something you did, every day in 1,000 small ways. And Harrison and Tamara were very good at it.